Okay. Hopefully you answered that first question there in your seesaw activity. So let me recap a little bit. So far we have read about how if you were a jellyfish, you would go up and go down, and that's pretty much it. The ocean water carries you along, and you might get some food. Maybe you don't get some food. You wouldn't really know because you don't have a brain. You don't really think about it. So let's keep moving on to the next page. It says, sea turtles, dolphins, and whale sharks would try to eat you. You wouldn't worry about it because you couldn't. You would just float on. You would protect yourself with millions of tiny mechanical cells that, when touched by another animal, release a chemical and sting. Like a bow and arrow. You would not know if you were stinging a friend or an enemy. You would not even know what a friend or an enemy was. Here's our vocabulary word, millions, right here. Remember, millions means a large number, a lot of something, more than 1 million. So, why do you think the author wants you to think what it's like to be a jellyfish? Well, let's think about it. Do you think that you would know what it was like to be a jellyfish? I know I wouldn't know what it was like to be a jellyfish, because I'm a person. And I don't know what it's like to be a blob of jelly that just kind of floats around in the sea. So I think the author wants you to just kind of be familiar with what it's like to live the life of a jellyfish. You have no brain, you have no heart, you don't really think about stuff, you just kind of float along, and maybe you get some food to eat, maybe you don't. Maybe something eats you, but you don't worry about it because you wouldn't even know. And you just kind of float along in the water. So I think the author wants you to know what it's like to be a jellyfish, because otherwise you probably wouldn't really think too much about it or even have any idea what it's like. Now, let's talk about how the jellyfish protects itself. Now, we know it has these tentacles, right? But it says in here, you would protect yourself with millions of tiny mechanical cells that, when touched by another animal, release a chemical and sting. There's some big words in there. Mechanical, chemical, those are some bigger words. So let's talk about what that might mean. Let's see if we can find some other clues that might help us understand that a little bit better. So let me go back and read that again. You would protect yourself with millions of tiny mechanical cells that, when touched by another animal, release a chemical and sting, like a bow and arrow. Wait a minute. I know what a bow and arrow are like. So I can picture in my mind a bow and arrow, and like an arrow being pulled back and then like shooting out and stinging. So now I can kind of understand what it's like when an animal comes into contact with these tentacles, or the parts that hang down from the jellyfish that do the stinging part, because I can kind of picture what it's like when like little arrows would shoot out and with chemicals and sting an animal that would run into it. So now I can picture that a little bit better. Okay, let's go on. Let's talk a little bit more about why jellyfish sting. It says jellyfish sting for protection and to catch food. That's all. They don't hunt, and they can't chase. They just bump and sting, bump and sting. And here we have little fish that are swimming in and out of the moon jellyfish, which is kind of interesting if you think about it. The little fish must be able to swim in and out without getting stung. Some jellyfish sting gently. Some jellyfish have a sting so powerful that they are more dangerous than a cobra. These are the Australian box jellies. And here is our picture of our Australian box jellyfish. Now, what do you think the main idea of these paragraphs are? We're talking about jellyfish stinging for protection and to catch food. Some jellyfish sting gently. I think that the main idea of both of these paragraphs is talking about just how jellyfish sting. And how do I know that? Well, we talk about how they use it for protection and to catch food, that they sting gently, some have a very powerful sting, and that kind of thing. So I think that the author's main idea on both of these pages is just talking about the sting of a jellyfish. Now, I wonder why the author is comparing the jellyfish sting to a cobra. Do you know what a cobra is? A cobra is a type of a type of snake that lives in India that has a very, very, very strong bite. So it says that this jellyfish has a sting that's more powerful and dangerous than to being bitten by that cobra snake. So I think the author wants you to know that this jellyfish is extremely dangerous. The sting of this jellyfish is extremely dangerous. It's more dangerous than being bitten by a cobra, which is a very dangerous kind of snake. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second. I want you to go back to your seesaw slide, and I want you to answer the next question.